Welcome to Meet the Game Changers. I'm Rev Kev. Let's get started with today's game changing guest. Let's go.
This is Meet the Game Changers with Rev Kev, where we dive into the stories of people transforming our world one bold move at a time.
Miss Marianna, mental health educator, author, and founder of Mari Work Productions. She helps people get real about emotional hygiene, accountability, and the healing work that starts from within. Miss Mariana, welcome to Meet the Game Changers.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad
Thank
to be here with you.
And thanks for being a tremendous gift to our world with what you do. I've been looking forward to sitting down with you for quite some time,
Mhm.
and to help share why I think you are a game changer. So let's start where so many of us live: stressed, burned out, barely holding it together.
Mm.
So tell us what you mean by emotional hygiene and how is it different from traditional self care?
Well, I have to start with a little bitty story. Is that okay with you?
That's great.
Okay, good. So one day I was doing a facilitation, a workshop, and I was explaining emotional hygiene. And this brother, he stopped. He said, "Emotional hygiene? You need to be called the emotional hygienist. Take it all the way." And I love him for that because it does get people curious. We hear about physical hygiene, and if there's a situation where somebody's, not tending to themselves properly, one funky person can fog up a whole room, right? And it impacts everybody. And it's the same thing with our emotions. Uh, as human beings, having this earth experience, going through the life lessons that we're experiencing, I mean, just our political climate and the things going around, you add that in with some of your childhood trauma, your personal growth challenges and obstacles, it can get a little funky in our
Right.
emotions. And so the process of really engaging with human beings in workshops and facilitations and different interactive experiences is giving them a healthy place to do the purging process, to be accountable for how those emotions go awry when all of these situations impact us in our lives so that we can get rid of some of the guilt and the shame and actually get to the work to purging some of that funk that we need to release to move in a healthy way.
You were able to do that in supporting my brother at a very difficult
Mhm.
time in
Yeah.
his life. And so I just want you to know in the Ross family, we
Yeah.
know how important you as an emotional hygienist is.
Yeah.
You
Come
know,
on.
we can get lost and stuck in emotions and not know how to sort them out, and it becomes the precursor to our own health conditions and unhealthy relationships and dynamics in our lives. And so I want to just thank you for who you've been for my family in that work.
Yes, indeed. No one's above it, right? I think sometimes, even for people in positions of leadership and community service like ourselves, a lot of the times we're programmed to pretend like we got it all together and we're okay
Mhm.
because we're such a motivating factor for everybody else that looks to us to shine, as that beacon of light. And so I really, really appreciate when I can work with folks in leadership positions. Sometimes we feel like we've arrived and we've gotten there and we've done all the work we need to do, and oftentimes we need this healing work and this self accountability work just as much as folks who are in positions of services at different capacities. So I just think that we're blessed, and I'm glad that I was able to bless your brother and just be his guide. He did the work. I was just a
Yeah.
guide.
Yeah. So you work with people from all walks of life,
Right.
and what are some things that you hear over and over again that maybe alerts you to the fact that people are hurting beneath the surface?
You know, in today's time, I would say people are starting to latch onto trending words. And although I believe that mental health and all of the expressions that come under that umbrella, from anxiety to depression, and some of the isms and schisms that we're dealing with, I think it's great that we're finding the language to articulate ourselves and be able to express some of the sentiments that maybe have been blocked in us for a long time. But I do think the thing that alerts me is that sometimes when we get connected to trending ideas, we stop our growth and capacity to go beyond what's trending at the time. And so for me, I'm glad that people can identify the words like trigger and, inner child work and all of these things, but we don't want to adhere to that as our identity because what happens is we anchor in our trauma story as if that's the full definition of who we are. My job is to give people the activities and the engagement necessary to, yes, go through those steps, doing the shadow work, all that good stuff, but also to define, name, and create what your future self and how you want to design yourself to be will arrive. So I think the way I know people are still hurting is if I hear those trigger words over and over and over, and it becomes a redundant wordplay, but I don't see the life receipts and the changes that actually are creating outcome of actually doing the work to manifest it, that's how I know you might be stuck in the loop. It's kind of like, when people discover the word narcissist, right? Everybody's a narcissist now, right? Or we just can kind of get stuck in the trend of it. And I just want to make sure that people understand we got to go a bit further to really get to core of those issues.
You were talking about things that are trending and words that are trending, but you're
Yeah.
trending too in social media. You've been going viral and all. You've been having some virality out in these
Yes.
streets, and you've been doing so at school assemblies and in places and spaces where a lot of our young people
Yeah.
are gathered. What is your secret sauce? What is your game changing sauce that are reaching young people in ways that others can't?
I couldn't call it a secret. It's just the magic that you get from that good auntie. The good juju, the good energy you get from a big mama. That, that energy in the community that has always been there to catch our children when they feel like they're lost or falling, and not being firm and rooted in who they are. And for the most part, that's not just young people, that's people of all ages if you really want to go there. But I don't think it's a secret. I think it's lacking. And I think that there are a lot of young people that maybe, number one, don't appreciate the aunties in their lives that have wisdom and knowledge and practices for them to gain. I think number two, the value of that big mama or that auntie in the community has kind of been transferred to other images and concepts in the media that are not nurturing. It might be feminine energy, that strong feminine energy, but it might not be nurturing. It's oftentimes rooted in lust and temptation. So I really think that the reason why young people, teenagers really latch on, one of their first things is like, will you really be my auntie? Or, I wish I had an auntie like you. And sometimes I have to remind them, you do. You just might not
Mm.
same level of honor and respect or access in the way that I have to you. So when you leave my presence after we have this session, this refresh experience, make sure to go back and reconnect or develop relationships with some of the aunties that you might be looking past so that you can nurture some of those relationships and get ongoing support after I'm not there rocking the house. Yeah.
Okay, so as a follow up,
Mhm.
what other kind of things are you saying directly to our teens today in some of your sessions that maybe mom and dad struggle with,
Yeah.
teacher and professor struggle with, but when auntie is in the house, when Miss Mariana is in the house, you say to them what that just gets their attention and is helping move the needle forward in the people that they're becoming.
I don't know that every session is different. As many of our youth are dealing with some common issues, their responses to them are different. So I can't say there's some one snap phrase or concept. What I will say is I have no problem trying to be so performative with professionalism that it blocks my ability to connect with them on a soul level. And a lot of these young people are sitting in institutions, right? Going to school to earn their education, to earn their certifications and degrees. But very often, their instructors are not tapping them on a soul level. And I'm not going to throw hundreds of
No
thousands
shade. No
educators
shade.
under the bus because I work with people in and out of the institution who roll with deep passion. But the majority of our kids' experiences, when I'm talking to them, city to city, nation to nation, or state to state, they are not in a space where they feel like on a consistent level, people are genuinely concerned about their soul development, their life skills development. They feel like they're being herded through a system. All people want to know is how are you and how are your grades? And then what kind of good job or money are you going to make? And if that's what we're setting our students up for, our youth of tomorrow up for, no wonder why they're getting really disrespectful because people are talking at them and expecting excellence from them in their marks and their grades. But by the time they do graduate, even if they have the high marks, they don't feel connected to who they are. And there's a lack of that life experience training. And that's really what I believe they're attracted to. Uh, I believe they're attracted to the fact that sometimes I'm very stern. And a lot of the times, adults have come to the defense of these young people that they don't know who often hug me and squeeze me after the session's over. But I'm very firm. And I'm firm
Mhm.
in a way that the discipline is not abusive, but it does command a level of excellence and effort, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the other half of that is I'm just as nurturing and just as sweet. And I ain't afraid to call them baby because there ain't no weird or wicked intentions behind it. And I praise them when they need praise. I pull them by their arm when they need recognition of some correction, but there's such a balance with that realness and that soul connection that they know my intentions are pure. Yeah.
Yeah, and let me just add, and you speak in a way, in a language that they can understand. That's one thing that I have to give you a lot of credit for. You are up on a lot of their music. You're up on a lot of their terminology.
Right.
You don't show up in a tuxedo. You
No.
know, you
Uh,
feel very relatable,
mhm,
and yet there is that healthy boundary. And I think that there's a craving for that level of relatability with our kids, as
mhm.
well as that boundary of respect. They want to
Yeah.
be called up
Mhm,
to their highest potential, and you bring that with you. And I think you come, as Maya Angelou said, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. I think the ancestors flow through you. In fact, you relate to them even as you are speaking to them. That shows up in you, and I just want to acknowledge that I see that in you.
oh,
I
I really do.
Yeah. I
Thank
I see I see it and I hear it, and there's some swag in who you are being. And I think that's a part of the game changer. And I have a lot to learn, from that
you.
as well, and
Mhm.
witnessing you.
Yeah.
But there's some other spaces that you move into and hold for our folks, particularly those individuals who are survivors of sexual trauma. How did that become a part of your calling and your work? Um, Particularly folks who are navigating that kind of pain.
I didn't go the traditional route to get to the space of working. I won't say traditional, I'll say common. That's something that I need to start switching up. I did not go the common route to getting to the place of doing what I consider mental health and emotional hygiene accountability work. Most people, even some of my mentors, really, really urged me to go to school and go all the way with it, become a doctor. I had one mentor was like, "You're going to be Dr. Souza," right? And I understood the affirmation of it, but I was very clear that that was not my path. And I'm a very when it comes to activating solutions, I'm not one that wants to go to school for an extended amount of time to start applying what the community needs right now. And so that doesn't mean I haven't had education, certifications, different apprenticeships and programs that have helped me to get, you know, the certification in mental health, trauma informed care, family engagement, all of those, all the things, childhood development. But I genuinely feel like I understand this on an intuitive level, and that's not something that could be measured by a school book. So I really tried to make sure that I'm well rounded. So when it came to people who were dealing specifically with domestic violence, sexual abuse, trafficking, things of this nature, that is something that has affected me and my circle within 6 degrees of separation. These aren't stories that are so disconnected from me that when a person comes in to the space that we're working to do some healing work and some of that self-accountability work, I'm not that far removed from it. And somehow what I have found in a lot of clients that I have served is that although they go with people with high level certification and education, there's still something missing. And they'll sit down with me and I'm saying all of this is necessary. We need the clinical, we need the spiritual, we need all aspects. It needs to be integrative. But I've had 70 something year old women come and have sessions with me. They twice my age almost, right? And tell me I've gone to therapy, I've gone to counseling, I've gone to church, and I have yet to have an experience like this. Thank you, baby. Thank you so
Mm.
much." And that lets me know there's something about connectivity that is not being made, even though the services are provided. So when your young girls come into me and young men, right, young ladies and gentlemen, when they come in and they have expressed like this issue and this has happened to me and I don't know where to go, I'm really not trying to fix them. All I'm trying to do is make sure they have a decompression. If I can guarantee a person gets a deep connection, number one, and gets a deep decompression, I don't have to force them to continue to want to do the work because it feels so good to have that release. I don't think a lot of people who are going to a lot of their therapy and coaching sessions are getting the releases that they really need on a regular basis. So, for those young people, when they're dealing with overcoming sexual violence, uh, my first intention is to help them have a release. My second intention is to help them to establish what is the pathway to their healing, because it might not be all me in this moment. And that really opens them up to see that there are possibilities. And if I can have this social emotional connection with this woman, there's got to be other human beings that are passionate. And then I help them get to those organizations or the extended care that they need. I'm not a long term coach. I'm the
Yeah,
person that gets you active. And so those young people, they trust me. And I've had adults who come to me tell me stories about what has happened to them and they never told anybody 20, 30 years ago. So I just think that I think that I'm blessed with the ability to connect with people on a really deep soul level. So no matter what their trauma is that they decide to share with me, I'm able to help them guide and make the connections necessary to really see themselves and who they become in the muck and then how they want to go about purging and cleansing and getting rid of some of that buildup. You
yeah.
know?
I think that's so important. There's your community presence, and I think that that's important for people to see that there is another space for community healers, people who are sitting inside of
Yeah.
what's happening in communities and the ways in which an immune cell can emerge
Wow.
that's unique for what this community is calling out for. And I think you're one of those healthy immune cells in our community
Oh,
that that has emerged. But I also want to acknowledge, and I think it's so important for people to hear that you can and do get people on the road to other professionals that would be important for their mental health or their physical well-being, etc., so that there is this again, as we're talking about this holistic sort of approach to wellness. But I do think that um, our communities do develop very unique individuals who have expertise in the very particular space and place and space where they are, and so I acknowledge you for
mhm.
that.
Thank you.
There's another piece that's happening, in our nation and our world, and that's a lot of folks are grieving the loss of loved ones. Now more than ever, people are grieving the loss of jobs, relationships, and are trying to find, paths of stability. But how do we get people on that path when we live in a world that emphasizes the importance of pretending that everything is okay?
Mhm.
And how do we make space for a culture of truth where Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok rewards these kind of polished performances and polished lives and just show your best self.
Yeah.
You say, what do you say?
What I say is I've been guilty of that. Better way to really come into a space of the trending word of authenticity by just recognizing that I was doing that whack stuff. Like there was a time as a community princess, right? I assigned myself by virtue of being in leadership and activism and in the arts, just being in leadership positions in so many capacities in my life that like you hear about the PK kids, the preacher kids, right? There's this expectation of excellence all the time. You're on, right? And so it makes it very difficult and you feel like you're a disappointment to yourself or your community when you have just regular life stuff happening. Like, it doesn't mean that because you've been placed in high level visibility or leadership or likes or views that you're not going to go through making some wicked decisions, mistakes, have major life changes. And so when I saw that starting to affect me and it started, went through a phase of realizing, hey, I'm caring about what people think too much. I knew there was some purging and some cleansing of my heart that I needed to do. Because at the end of the day, when the day's got to end, we have to sleep with ourselves and we have to wake up and rise, knowing that we are putting on a role and a face that doesn't even fit us. And so I think for somebody out there, if you're a listener or you're a viewer, and you're in a space where, whether you're a teenager or a full blown adult, that social media or recognition or being in places of leadership, right, is starting to um, make you shrink in areas where you need to be accountable, or you're noticing how you're not being your full and authentic self. Number one, just understand that you're allowed to make mistakes and choices and major life decisions, and they're not always going to be okay. And people know when you're faking it. If they don't know, they're going to find out. And so that's what I had to go through, Rev Kev. I had to get to a space of understanding, like, this performance is getting old and I'm actually not even that good at it. Like, I'm not a good liar. I've had a lot of life lessons where I was like, you don't need to never lie again because you are not a good liar, right? So just that lie, it becomes
Mhm.
old and it becomes more difficult than the actual challenges that you're hiding. So I would say, number one, acknowledge it's okay for you to go through these shifts. And number two, understand how much lighter and nimble and quick you become as you're navigating through this thing called life when you're not faking it and when you're not pretending that everything is okay. People love to be around individuals that have a well rounded and balanced perspective on where I'm doing good and where I'm shining light, but also where I need to be accountable.
What you're helping folks to do is to take off their social media spanks. You know what I'm saying? Just take your social media spanks.
Oh,
Mm.
hang out,
Let
huh?
it all hang out. Just
Take
eat,
your
eat,
handkerchief out.
yeah, just kind of,
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Your hairpiece off for,
I got my little bun up today. Take
you
your
know,
strong one out.
but you know what I'm saying? I think that there's that because there is this addictiveness that we have to social media itself, and I think it's changing us.
Yeah.
And I think the way we get ourselves back to that is by giving ourselves permission not to give a flying flip
Beep, 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 beep.
other
Okay.
people think about you. I think it's so important that we help people break through their addiction to other people's approval and opinions about them. You want to say something? You want to tag in on this?
Yeah,
You know,
tag in on this and
come
to
on,
add
get a little bit of that.
really, really understanding and exploring what do you think about yourself? Because the
Mm,
moment you
say
stop
that.
obsessing over what other people are feeling and thinking, what their narrative of your story is, what their version, you might be the villain in somebody's story, and there's no way around it, right? So I think once we start relinquishing the need for control over, I even get a little worried when people say, I have to control the narrative. Just be
Right.
honest. You ain't got to control nothing. You ain't got to do
Yes.
damage control if you just telling the truth and being yourself. So I think to add to that is like, once you have that space from detaching from what other people are thinking and feeling, you have a little room to kind of move and start exploring. Well, what do I think about myself? The person
Yeah.
I designed myself to be, is it a little off from the version that I want to experience? Or the person that I am being right now, does that not align with my morals and my values because I'm overcompensating and getting it in attention or affection? These are the types of things that we want to have space to do. So
Yeah.
again, we have to have processes where we can purge and clean, shed that old skin, that old self that no longer fits, and forgive everybody and forgive ourselves that you've grown out of it so you can put on and develop that new outfit, that new outlook, and that new disposition.
Yeah.
Well, I just love creating environments for it, whether we're doing retreats or workshops or
Yeah.
trainings. I am thrilled when I am creating opportunities for that type of growth and exploration, and people love it. People just love it.
They do. And it's so needed. It's
Yeah,
so needed. If just the social media detox retreat,
yeah,
like to come off of
yeah,
our addiction to the like people's likes. We have
Yeah,
now digitized our need for approval, and folks will post something on in social media. It'd be out there 2 minutes, and nobody liked it. They're feeling horrible about
yeah,
themselves. They're taking it down, and all.
yeah,
Stop,
yeah.
stop. Stop. Do you know that we touch our cell phones on average
Oh,
2,000 times a day?
oh no.
2,000
Awful,
times a day. And
awful.
so there's room for that social media detox retreat or whatever it is that you're
Let's
doing
do it. Let's
that's
do
gonna bring people back into being able to wake up in the morning, look in themselves in the mirror and say, "You good looking thing,
it.
you ought to live forever." I know you
Right.
say that every day to yourself.
You know
I
what? In one way
yeah.
or another, I got to. If not, I fall apart in the world. You gotta love yourself. It's a full time. I don't know how people say they're bored. It's a full-time job trying to love and keep yourself straight and accountable in this
Yeah.
world out here.
Yeah, it is, it is. And so it's not to say that we need to be so individualistic
Yeah,
and selfish
yeah,
that we exclude the benefit that comes from community.
yeah,
But I do think there's a value in really being self-full in that there is inside of me a place and a space that is filled with love, and I have the responsibility of keeping that tank full. So
absolutely.
just to pivot a little bit, uh, tying back to kind of our overall wellness and emotional hygiene, what is the value of having community for in our lives, and how does it help us to heal and grow?
Hmm. So we say the saying a lot, it takes a village to raise a child. And if we're all running around here screaming about all this inner child work and the things that have hurt us in trauma childhood, that means we always need our village. If we're full blown adults still trying to heal what happened to us in childhood, as full blown adults, we should also be seeking out the meaningful relationships in community that are going to help us navigate and raise us through those opportunities that we didn't have. And so I think when we talk about community on social media, there is an immediate disconnect there because there's a level of authenticity that happens so common and so frequently. The likelihood of making really meaningful connections it's just a very surface experience. When you go out and you seek out your soul family in the community of this globe, and you're trying to make intentional and meaningful and healthy connections with people, that then becomes your village, no matter what age you're at. And so when I say I'm auntie, I didn't go the doctor route, right? But to me, that is just as high as regard of somebody calling me a doctor. Those babies and those young adults and grown folks older than me sometimes calling me auntie, they're regarding some of that village matriarch energy that is needed. And for some people, I understand that that is very strong. That is very potent. That's strong love. But I do think that people overall recognize that that's it's needed. And just as I'm an auntie, you're an uncle, right? You are an active, living, breathing solution and motivator and accountability partner for tons of people in the world. And we need that strong masculine energy to love and to correct us and to guide us along the way. And so I just think it's popular to be liked and viewed by so many garbage things and simple things that don't require soul attention. But that's what makes us those game changers in being able to come in and display, hey, I don't mind being popular auntie. I think it's great. I think that if these kids are running around rapping and singing some of the most toxic stuff, and they look at me after halfway through the session, and then they look up my social media, they're like, "Dang, you famous!" I have no problem with being healthy famous for them. So
Mhm.
I that's something too we have to be careful of when we are working out the kinks of feeling that being popular or well known. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's what are you well known for, and are you being authentic in what that is that you're being? And our beingness, I think, is very important. That if we do this emotional hygiene work, the value of that is wherever we have to show up in whatever capacity in our village, we're having fuller experiences, meaningful experiences, and supportive experiences. I think that that is what our village wants, needs, supports, contrary to popular Hollywood and whatever that garbage is that they pump to us, I think people know exactly what they need. They just need
Mhm.
opportunities to flex it, to experience it, to shape it and create it. And I think that's why people enjoy refresh sessions because we're
Mhm.
co-piloting life.
Mhm.
It's not telling you what you need to do or what medicine you need to take or look to giving you a textbook. No, we're going on a journey. We're going to time travel and look at what's happened in the past. We're going to go into the future and think about, time travel and think about what you want to be. And then we're going to get rooted in the now so we can move forward and fulfill our role in the village. That is what brings fair exchange in a healthy community. Yeah.
If you're just joining us, you are listening to the voice of Miss Mariana. She's an emotional hygienist and she's everybody's auntie. And you're watching Meet the Game Changers, and I'm your host, Rev Kev. And I want to invite you to like, share, and subscribe to this incredible podcast where we are bringing you inspiring, innovative, and creative thoughtful people who are changing the game with the hopes that it gives you some hope and inspiration for how you can be your own game changer in your own life. I want to affirm indigeneity and the indigenous wisdom that comes
Yeah.
from our cultural traditions and spiritual traditions, and you have a way of integrating that in your work. How do we bring that into the forefront? How do we help people to bring that into the forefront?
So coming from
Sure.
a very strong community who really um, put forth the important history lessons and African spiritual lessons with those indigenous cultures and heritage, and using that as a teaching base for values and morals. Even though I veered away from it when I got a little older and experimenting and lifing, that foundation was there in a way that I don't think Western society cultivates. And one thing that I love about what I do is although I'm teaching all these transformational activities and experiences, a lot of them are direct extractions from ancient African ceremony, from ancient African rites of passage, from ancient African spiritual practices. What I have learned to do is regard them more than just a theory to study. And I go from helping people to understand not just why this value or this moral is important and we need to apply it, but how do you do that? And I think people don't get that through their formal education. Now, full circle, it brought me back. So when we're not getting in that in our education and we're not getting our African or indigenous history, which was very rich in values and morals, we're more than likely going to be lost in a Western based society. And so
Mhm.
I think I love it when I do a whole experience, and then at the end of my presentation, I throw up an African symbol or an African deity that exemplifies qualities, characteristics, both positive and negative, that come along with a mythological and or a historical or a cosmological, right? All these different backgrounds are organic roots that says the stories are here. You don't need to
Mhm.
watch Love and Hip Hop and all that
Mhm.
garbage to give you an example of romance. It's here in this history, in this that's written on the walls and the tombs in Egypt, right? It's here. And it
Mhm.
has lessons that are healthy for you, not toxic for you, like a lot of the dramas and the things that are captivating our minds. And so people are just, especially when I'm with people who are not of indigenous or African heritage that they identify with, right? And then at the end, they're like, oh, she's just, this is just wonderful. I'm so moved. And oh, this
Mhm.
is, and I slap it up and say, by the way, this is from my aunt. And my
Yeah.
aunt represents truth,
Yeah.
justice, righteousness. And when we
Yes.
operate and use my aunt as an inner compass for our decision making, our challenges, our obstacles, we can use that inner compass. Am I being truthful enough? Okay. What else does my
Mhm.
aunt mean? Am I being honest enough? Okay. Am I being so you use that inner compass to get back on track. And then their mouths drop. They're like, yeah, this was etched inside the pyramids about 4, 5, 6, 7,000 years ago.
Mhm.
This is new. But it's my job to honor the ancestors and to bring life into making that history and that rich solution that is there and those morals and those stories and those values. And I gotta make it cool and hip, cat. Don't nobody want to work
Mhm.
look this big. I mean, they got people doing, Netflix specials and things like that. But it's not the same as how can I use this information to help me in my life? And that's where, to answer your question, that long journey to get to that answer, that's where the value of indigenous and cultural history and spirituality and
Yeah.
different integrative entry points are to
Yeah.
help people get to where they need to be. Yeah.
And I thank you for taking your time to address that because it's a
Eh,
big topic and it's
Yeah.
important and we all have an indigeneity. And I think part of what you're helping us to see is that we can find our way to it and embrace it no matter what our skin tone or cultural background or whatever that is. There's a place for it in helping us to become more, as I talked about earlier, self-full, really filled with the best of ourselves. So I just want to acknowledge those of you who have been tuning in and making comments. Uh, and I want to just shout out some of those comments if that's okay. Those of you who are tuning in. Kim Treadwell says, we need the positive history today. So we still need that history. Sabir said, peace and blessings, everyone. Hey, Sabir. Hey, Kim. We have Shane Dumas says, uh, well said, Auntie Miss Mariana. And James says, so true. Everyone under 40 that I know calls me Unc.
Mhm.
Uh, Georgia said, indeed. Hey, Georgia. And Carmen Fletcher says she likes that. Take your social media spanks off. All right, we're taking them off. They're picking up what we're putting down on Meet the Game Changers with Miss Mariana today. Please like, share, subscribe, get the word out about this program. Our intention is to give you innovative ideas and game changing perspectives that will support you in your own life and work. All right. So we earlier, I said I'm going to come back to this point about
Oh, you got a good memory.
narcissism. I have a
Yeah.
great producer too.
Okay. Okay.
But
Good.
narcissism. Remember, I talked about that. You kind of that term came out, and
Yeah.
if you're paying attention to social media right now, trending is this term, and it would have you to think and believe that everybody you know or yourself is a narcissist. And
Yeah.
so as an emotional hygienist, having conversations with people all the time who are trying to self-assess, what do you say about this trend and how can we look at narcissism in our society today and perhaps within ourselves?
So I've taken on this title, social wellness practitioner, and
Okay.
one of the branches is an emotional hygienist. But when I'm talking about social wellness, I'm also looking at how society is changing and molding the way we think critically and the way we respond to life situations. And so I think that it's important that we have a range of language to be able to identify certain issues and challenges, and especially if there is abuse in our life. So I just want to say that first. The second thing I'll say is something similar to what I mentioned earlier is if we're not careful, we can identify and become Google doctors, right? And you can go on the internet and find anything that justifies whatever outlook and disposition you want. And so there's a lot of people that have been abused that now become advocates or voices for something like a narcissist. But we also have to understand in our social wellness that everything that's difficult, or every time we have a challenge, or anytime we don't agree with someone, we don't have to have this extreme polarized reaction mentally, emotionally, and even energetically to the point where we create them out to be a villain and a narcissist. Because just as that person has some bad stuff and some issues, we have our own stuff too. The ultimate goal is if you identify a narcissist, just get away. But going on and making that the sole purpose of why you can't get along with somebody, or even if somebody did do something wrong to you, acknowledge it. Let's do what we need to overcome. But holding that person hostage when they might be doing the work to change, it's not our business. It's not our job. And so I just get a little concerned sometimes when I see people latch onto things and use it only to criminalize or villainize certain people. And then it deflects from maybe some of the accountability that needs to be had. It's one thing if you're 1000% victimized, but sometimes the narcissists that are in our life are the people that we've chosen and placed there. So we got to start looking at too. Why are we attracting them? What are we going through? What signs we're not seeing? And that is what makes narcissism now a full experience for not just the person who's being called and showing up as a narcissist, but how do we respond to them if that's truly what they are? If not, there might be some unhealthy decisions and choices that we're making that's leading us to have a narcissistic experience, not just one narcissistic person. If you find yourself constantly running into narcissists and going through that cycle over and over, something's going on with you. It's not just these people latching on. And that's where the work and accountability has to be done.
Did our auntie done came for? Did you see auntie come for? Auntie like she came and saw a little bit of neck
Oh, you have a little head. Oh, you
going on, right? We getting into your lane now. We are. So
you said
see,
you wanted to know about the sauce. You said
listen.
it's slow. You got to dip in slow.
When the neck starts rolling, okay, that's all I'm saying.
That's how I
So
talk to kids.
Miss Mariana is the author of the book Own Your SHIT. Own Your SHIT. And
I know.
how do you help people, right?
Yeah.
Use that. And you were telling us to own it. There's some
Yeah.
ownership just now. So it's a perfect segue to talk about your book.
Okay.
How do we use this as a tool to help people on their own healing journeys?
I love it. First of all, let's break it down. So
Break it
for
down.
that's churchy out there or a little self-righteous, like you've never had a little SHIT. You need sometime to grow a garden. Sometimes you need some SHIT to grow a garden, right? But I want to give you the acronym. The acronym for SHIT is some healing in there. Because
Mhm,
we all got some healing there to do. I don't care if you healed up something that happened 20 years ago, something might have happened to you yesterday, and you're trying to work through it. I'm working through some stuff. I'm a full-time project. It's
mhm.
not me being in leadership as if I'm not working on my stuff too, right? And so this own your SHIT, this some healing in there that needs to be done. This workbook is very interactive, just like I am as an in-person facilitator. And so there's charts, there's graphs, there's writing prompts. I joke around sometimes because people like to journal, but some people say, "Look, I went to the store, I got the journal, I lit a candle, I hit my singing bowl, I had my crystals out, I said my prayers, I did my meditation, and then as soon as I opened a book, I didn't know what to write." This helps you to have several different prompts to really explore how your mind is working, how your heart is working, how are you reacting to things, how do you want to respond to things, how does it connect to what you went through in your trauma. So it's only 50 pages, not more than 50 pages. And it's a great jump off for somebody who says, I still got some work to do. Or even for somebody who's done some work and got a little lackadaisical and it's like, I need a little refresh. I need to go in and remind myself of some of my issues, where they come from, so that I can get back on track to healing them. And that's what this workbook has been about. It's in colleges, it's in prison systems, it's in curriculums for social workers and their recipients. And I really hope anyone who feels like they need a little jolt to get them aware, self aware, to be accountable, this is a beautiful gift for yourself or your loved ones. Yeah.
Oh, had to do it. Had to do it. Got my singing bowl. All we need is the book now. Oh. You're listening?
Book. Y'all
Yeah.
buy the book.
Yeah. Get the book, get the book, because we need tools. And that's the whole point with introducing game changers to you, friends. We need tools that are practical, that's going to help us
Yeah.
in those moments where we're stuck. There is some healing in there, right? That needs to be done.
Yeah.
And
It really does.
if you're alive and you're paying attention, if you're living in this uh planet right now, there's some healing in there. One of my mentors gave me an acronym, that's the, I guess, the kissing cousin to the SHIT, which is stuff,
Mhm.
STUFF.
Come on.
Some terrific unhealed fears and failures.
Come
Some
on.
terrific unhealed fears and failures.
That's
So
awesome.
we got some healing in there, and we got some terrific unhealed fears and failures. STUFF and SHIT. And I love that you talked about how SHIT is perfect fertilizer for us to grow. We
Come on.
need, we can transmute it. And
That's right.
so related to that, because this is the thing that's going on just everywhere
Mhm,
over on, and I find this happening within myself. I find it happening with people who are in professional world,
mhm,
weariness, heaviness,
mhm.
reactiveness to media and what's going on in the conditions of the world around us. So how do you process those emotions when they are heavy and hard to come back from?
Okay. One of the things that I use that helps me to get myself in check when I'm feeling heavy, when I'm feeling the weight and the gravity of things that aren't helping me to feel free. One of the things that I ask myself, is this an impact or, is this an effect from a program that is not for my healthy higher good? Right? When I ask myself that question, it helps me to neutralize myself real quick because there's one thing if it's inner child stuff and your own fears and things like that. But if your reactiveness is calculated by someone whose job it is to make you feel that way and you know that program exists, that's a real quick way to say, let that one go. Right? Some of this reactiveness is because of these polarized views and these extreme perspectives where, there's so much divisiveness that even our critical thinking operates through an order of operation of divisiveness, of judgment, of hypersensitivity. And so always ask yourself if you're a listener or a viewer, and this isn't, there's a couple of exercises I do with this, but one of the first questions I ask myself is this mind trip somebody's program or plan? Because if it is, I've fallen right to it. And this is not one that I need to sit up. I got other issues I got to work on. Let me let this one go. Maybe I can't heal the whole world and make it a better place. So I don't need to be depressed, but I can heal something in my village and my community and live a good, decent life. Right. So I would really say for people who want to have that type of shift in their mind is what I'm about to trip about or overthink about or over sensationalize or overreact to something that's calculated by somebody else. Is somebody depending on exploiting me to make me feel this way? The first thing I can do is release some of those things off of the list. So
Mm,
really brewing, do a decompression session, hire me to coach you, go to grab cab, whatever it is you need to do, but do some activities within a session that can really help you break apart and separate. Throw it up on the whiteboard and really look at what am I carrying that is not mine to carry and what do I need to pack with so that I can overcome any of the, the bad luggage that I picked up and the baggage that I picked up on the way. I think that is a really quick way to really decompress some of the extra SHIT that is not ours to carry. Yeah.
that's so good. That is
Yeah.
so good. Literally, we are, we have to accept that there's just some unhealthy programming out there that
Mhm.
we're picking up stuff
Yeah.
that we have no real value for, but we are being counted on to
Yes.
react to, that drives news cycles, that sells magazines, that sells weight loss, diet medications, and program gym memberships, all of these things. So we want to be mindful, and that was a great distinction. What is mine and what's not mine?
Mhm.
Let's sort that out. That's really great. So what about those people who have been doing the work? They've been putting in work. I hear this all the time. I'm putting in work, Rev. I'm at it. I'm taking all the suggestions. I'm still not healing. I'm not there yet. Whatever that there is, there are folks who feel like they're doing the work and they're still stuck. What do we say to them?
There was an expression I heard one time, and it said, "You can't heal in the same environment that broke you." And I
Mm,
think sometimes we feel that because maybe we left the job or separated from the person or made whatever the big life transition is, that we're not still in the mental and emotional environment. And so that goes into, again, getting good decompressions, because if your environment doesn't change in your mind, you can physically be out of whatever situation and you still get stagnant, right? And so this idea of like moving forward is really what the focus should be. And I think it kind of got sensationalized to like stick on how am I feeling in the moment, but it's like, how do you want to feel? And so I'm not sure if I answered your question. I hope I did. I have a lot
Um,
of ideas percolating.
no, I think we need to recognize. I'll tell a kind of a just a tiny story
Yeah.
related to that. There was someone who had a lot of promise and uh, who wanted to come out of a really difficult situation,
Mhm.
and God was doing the work, but wouldn't change environments.
Oh,
And
so that.
because that individual didn't change environments,
Mhm.
as that person was doing the work that we were helping him with, he ended up having a relapse,
Mhm.
into addiction, and he was in a space where he was living his dream. I mean, we put him in the perfect hands to give him all of the tools and all of the possibility,
Yeah.
but he had a relapse
Yeah.
because he wouldn't shift the environment and the social circles that
Yeah.
were affecting him.
Mhm. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
Environments show up in a variety of ways, and if there's just one little switch up, it can be the one thing that gives that opening for what we a lot of us call that relapse. And it doesn't always have to be something as extreme as substance abuse. It can be unhealthy relationships and going back
yeah.
to something that has expired itself. It's becoming unhealthy. You're doing it for the wrong reasons or the unhealthy reasons. It could be a job that you're miserable at, like whatever it is that you convince yourself that you can't live without. There's a lot of acceptance that has to come on with that level of work for
Ooh,
sure.
come on, mama, come on. Now listen, 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 listen. And people don't wanna hear it because
Yeah,
some of them got them golden handcuffs,
yeah, yeah,
and they're just absolutely miserable, but they're doing all the other work, and they think that if I hang on to this job, let's
yeah,
just stick with the job, right? And
yeah.
it's a toxic situation, but the money is so good.
What is
How
it
do
doing?
you how do you break through a
Yeah,
person that
yeah.
good money, boy, that good
Boy,
money?
that money be good when you get it, don't it?
Huh?
It be good when you get it.
So yeah, they may need to take that up with you privately,
Yeah,
in one of these sessions
yeah,
because um it is it's a thing. It's a thing. So let's shift the tone just a little bit because
okay.
I know and I'm so grateful, by the way, for those of you who are just joining us. You're watching Meet the Game Changers, you're listening to Meet the Game Changers. I'm your host, Rev Kev. And we want you to like, subscribe, and share this incredible conversation that we're having with our game changing guest, Miss Mariana, who is an emotional hygienist and a community healer and everybody's auntie. And she's really, taking us deep, deep enough for this platform. I think there's a deeper yet that you can go when you are one-on-one with her or happen to be in one of her trainings or programs that she has. And before she leaves us today, I'll ask her about how can people tap into you. But I want you to talk directly to that individual who's about to give up on themselves. They're at the end of their rope. They they're stuck with what to choose next. And I know undoubtedly there is at least one who's listening and watching this episode right now.
Mhm.
So what do you say to that person to throw them a lifeline?
Yeah. I mentioned it earlier before, and that is to honor the inner compass. And this is like a foundational tool. I have a lot of tools that I've extracted from a lot of my studies and, Kemetic culture and spirituality and science. And the inner compass is the tool that I help people with. And it comes from the concept of Ma'at, which again stands for truth, justice, and righteousness. And so in theory, that all sounds great. But when you're on your last leg, when your back is against the wall, when you feel like there's literally nowhere to turn, one of the tools that I suggest any human being pull out is the inner compass. And the first question, the inner compass has three equal parts. One is truth, one is justice, one is righteousness. And a lot of the times, if you just stop when you're at that grounds level and you ask myself, is it true, right, that I need to give up right now? Is it true that there's not one person that loves me? Is it, because that can stop you to really think what you're convincing yourself of in the emotions in the moment might not even be true. And just doing that little twist of the inner compass could help you get back on track. Am I being honest with myself right now? And if that is a process that doesn't work, then the next thing is justice. First, you ask yourself, am I being honest? Am I being truthful with myself? The second thing is you ask yourself, is this justice? Is this just for me? Is this fair to me? Is this decision fair to me right now? Is letting myself go fair to me right now before it is to everyone else? And if the answer is no, then there's reason to keep going. And we all deserve a second chance. So the fairness is having a second chance to restore. And then the last question you ask yourself, is this righteous? And I don't confuse righteousness with self-righteousness, right? Not I'm above somebody else, self-righteousness. I'm talking about, is this for my healthy higher good? Is this decision or is this action I'm about to take out of desperation or pain or creating suffering? Is this for my healthy higher good? And if the answer is no, that'll line you up and that'll get your mind off of a lot of the negative thoughts and outlooks and dispositions that are convincing you that life isn't worth living. The truth is you absolutely are deserving of love and support and care. And whatever it is you're going through, the Most High has put somebody on this planet that can help you through that. It's your job to find that person and to utilize it and stick with it and be in that healthy environment. But that's the truth of the matter. The fair part, the just thing is to give yourself a chance. Because when we're talking about being in balance and being fair, each side has a chance to weigh in on the situation. And so we want to make sure that we ask ourselves, is this fair? If this is not fair to myself, give yourself another chance to get some of that redemption, that help, and that support. And then lastly, is this the righteous thing for me? Is this for my healthy higher good? If you're talking about taking away your life or hurting yourself or another, is that for your healthy higher good? It's not. So that can steer you in the right direction. So I would say pull out your inner compass. Study Ma'at, which stands for truth, justice, and righteousness. And when we do live with those values and principles, those African specifically values and principles in place, it helps us to have balance, order, wisdom, and restoration in the things that we want to heal and the things that we want to achieve in life. So that's what I would say to a person. Pull out your inner compass, be truthful with yourself, be just, be fair with yourself. And lastly, be righteous with yourself and get the support that you deserve. Yeah.
That was so profound, and I hope everybody was listening, and if you're that person who needed to hear that, I want you to slow it down and let the words that Miss Mariana spoke resonate deeply within you. Just take that lifeline that was just thrown your way. And what I would echo or add to that is you're worth it.
Mm,
You're absolutely positively worth it. You've been sent here with a definite purpose. And whether you've discovered that or not, no matter how short or small you think of yourself, in somebody's eyes, you're a giant. No matter how big a problem you think you are, in somebody's eyes, you are an answered prayer. So go back over this episode and hear those three very practical tools that Auntie just shared with you. They're gonna save your life,
mm,
and then you're gonna help somebody else to save their lives. Thank you so much.
mm, mm,
That was sweet. Just want to take it back to our very active chat room and comments, and just hear from some of you who've been sounding off. Kim Treadwell said, "You have a fantastic producer." Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Mel is phenomenal and does a great job. Shout outs. If I had pom poms, I would wave pom poms. Thank you, Mel, for your incredible coordination of this program and producing. Carmen Fletcher said, "I am a survivor of a narcissistic abuser. In short, they're bullies. In short, they are bullies. Therefore, we little monsters. We little monsters." Well, I'm glad you are a survivor, Carmen, and I pray your continued strength and that you continue to get built up and be a light. William says, "Amen. Leave the narcissist alone. We cannot help them. We need to work on ourselves." All right, Will. And Carmen also says that that part, sometimes the money isn't even that great, but no one else will hire you in today's economy. I
Mhm.
want to challenge you on that thought. I think I may throw that to our guest as well about that because there's some other options even with the being hired. But thank you for that comment, Carmen. Derek says this has been very informative. This episode has been very informative. And Will says Ma'at is so important. Ma'at is so important. Maurice Higgins Jr. said, "Catching up, great take on schools, having a cookie cutter approach. There should be a focus on the spiritual side." All of this is so rich and so good. We do have to be careful though on who is suggesting what spirituality goes in our school system. But that's a whole other show for a
You
whole
know what? Can I say something really quick?
yeah, yeah,
This sometimes the word energy is really a great swap out for spirituality when people have emotional attachments to meaning it means something religious. And so
yeah.
when I teach a lot of the time, if people are going to get all weird because we use the word spirit, it's too close to religion and that's a threatening our autonomy. Okay, fine. Your energy. Your
Mhm,
energy. 'Cause when we're talking about our spirit, we're talking about the living energy inside of our bodies. So,
mhm.
we're talking about our energy. Yes, young people do need to learn about energy, they understand their energy, focus their energy, stop to cut off their energy, create with their energy, destroy and rebuild with their energy. So let's just say energy work is spiritual
That's
work.
that's
Oh,
great. That's
yeah,
fantastic. That is
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Um, what do you wish, more people understood about their mental health that they don't right now?
That it's a constant cleanup job.
Mm,
You know, I had to cry one out the other day, do some processing, pull out my whiteboard, excuse me, I almost dropped my glass, pull out my whiteboard, I had to go through a process. And that's
mhm.
something I have learned recently to give myself grace for because I create a lot of process for other people. And then when it's time for me to process, it's like, wait a minute, you a human too. You got to do your own maintenance regularly. So looking at the process as opposed to the explosion and really understanding that if we put ourselves through just like a workout, sometimes people want to rush before summertime to get it together. But if we just consistent, we're gonna have the results we want. And if we're not where we want to be, the receipts show for it. So I think a lot of the time when we're looking at this framework of how we're going to approach the work, that would be one perspective that a couple of
Yeah,
perspectives.
so this just not this just crisis intervention all the time. There's,
Mhm.
the long term.
This is just
Mhm,
what we do to maintain
mhm, mhm,
energetic system, to maintain
mhm.
our emotional and mental systems. And that's not valued. That's not taught. We're in our 30s, 40s, and 50s just learning the language, let alone having, access to the actual tutelage to the practices and processes. And I think that's why people really get excited because they're like, I know this is a thing, but I just didn't know how to get to it. Or, I knew I wanted to overcome this, but I wasn't sure of a two or three styles that I could try until I found the right one. So, really falling in love with the process and understanding that it's just part of our maintenance. Ladies, you can't go get your nails done just one time and your feet done one time. You got to go regularly if you want them things to stay smooth and soft, right? Brothers, if you got to go get your beard maintained, you can't just get it cut one time and it stays like that. You got to go get that thing trimmed up. So I use the physical examples, but it's the same thing. We need to tighten up mentally. We need
Yeah.
to tighten up emotionally, and we don't have to wait till we, like the kids say, crash out until we get to a point where we go reaching and struggling to get it. If we just maintain it, We can stay balanced, and then if a life starts lifing, we have the support we need when it hits us instead of just using it as emergency crisis services.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
it. So hard to believe, but we are right here at the bottom of the show,
Yeah.
and I'm just beyond grateful that this has been so full and so rich.
Yeah.
What is a takeaway? What is one thought that you want people to walk away from this podcast
Hmm.
having been in the presence of their auntie?
Book me.
And
Book me.
oh, wait,
Book me.
yes, yeah,
That's
that part, that too. But if there's a lasting message that you want them to carry with them.
I've given a lot of big juicy messages. So
Mhm.
my message would be to when you hear something that's powerful, that stirs your soul, write it down and do something about it. Put a practice in place. Go beyond just the and the like and the view and the yes, right? Go beyond just aligning. Awaken people like to say, "Oh, that aligns with me," right? Go beyond just aligning and feeling the little cosign. Actually write it down and see why this resonates with you. So I've given you all the gems I got that the mantle has fallen on us in this time. That's all I got. But my takeaway would be if there was something that was valuable from you, write it down, turn it into a journal entry. Take it from a journal entry into a new practice or a commitment. Take it from a new practice or commitment and share it with somebody else who needs your tutelage and your wisdom for what you've just accomplished. So I just want to make sure that we go by beyond getting the ear and the mind and the heart orgasms and really making sure we put some things into action.
All right, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. We've taken our social media spanks off. We have owned our SHIT, and we've had our mental orgasms. We done it all today with Miss.
A lot going on. There's a lot
So
going on today.
yes, yes, and this is the tame version of.
Right, right. You put
she
both
she
glue on. I
she
didn't know you
she
put the glue.
she tucked it in for us today. She kept held a little bit back because she's on Rev Kev's platform. But how can people keep in touch with you? How can they connect you? How can they book you? Where can they find you? What are your platforms? How can we
So,
connect?
my background, one of my backgrounds is in journalism. So I am very good on big and good at community storytelling. And so if you go to the social media, I believe in engaging in healthy social media. So if you are a person who does indulge in a healthy way, hopefully as possible, you can follow me, or I don't like to say follow me, you can appreciate me at Miss Mariana 365 because it's me all day, every day. And if you want to get in contact with me, for services for one on one coaching, which I do provide via Zoom through sessions on Mondays and Tuesdays. Or if you want to book me for a keynote, for interactive keynote, because I'm very interactive, or for a workshop for your students, for your organization, your staff, your administrators, or even something deeper like a facilitation for a retreat that's something a little deeper in terms of the time that we had to commit. You can follow and you can subscribe to Miss Marianna today. And at Miss Marianna today, you can also sign up so you can find out when I have different projects going on and just getting involved with any new curriculum or workshops that I have in the community locally and abroad. So Miss Marianna today, and that's how you can connect with me. I'm looking forward to some time with you.
Miss Mariana, you have definitely given us a lot to work with, a lot to grow on, and thanks for showing up with the realness. Thanks for showing up with some indigeneity. Thanks for showing up with some culturally appropriate medicine for us. Thank you for bringing your full self to this program. And just one more time, tell us how we can get your book. Just tell us how to get that book.
You can reach all things Miss Mariana today. You can get services, you can get the tools. I also have a children's book as well. And you can book me for coaching or for your event. So anything Miss Mariana today, you can get connected with whatever resources you're looking for from me.
Thanks so much for being on the show. Find some way to get in touch with Miss Mariana. We're so grateful. We're so grateful. You did your thing today, and I know we are all just filled and I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
To be here. Thank you for sharing your time and your space. And for those of all, listening in the moment and watching in the future, wishing you well and sending you good energy on your journey. Peace.
Thank you. So please remember that healing doesn't happen by accident. It happens by intention, an intentional commitment to handling something in there, to emptying some of that terrific unhealed fears and failures. It happens because we own our stuff. I thank you for being with us. Thank you for watching Meet the Game Changers. Now you go out there and you change the game.
This is Meet the Game Changers with Rev Kev, where we dive into the stories of people transforming our world one bold move at a time.